Lenovo's Legion Pro 5i has a solid build, a beautiful OLED screen, and plenty of power to run modern games. But depending on the configuration you choose, there are trade-offs in performance, battery life, heat, and weight. Which is why I've got two different models here to show you the differences and help you pick the right one. The version I bought has a slower 165Hz OLED screen with RTX 5070 graphics, while the one Lenovo lent me has a faster 240Hz OLED screen and RTX 5070 Ti graphics. But this laptop can be customized even more with the link below, which will affect the final price. And if it has a good sale, we'll list it on our gaminglaptop.deals website so you can save money. The dimensions are the same regardless of the specs you choose. It's not thin, but I wouldn't call it thick either. It feels quite portable. Both laptops were just over £5 with the laptop alone, but the higher spec version was a little heavier. It's on the lighter side when compared to all 16-inch gaming laptops we've tested, and the higher tier 5070 Ti configuration weighs a little extra due to small differences in the cooler that we'll check out later. The difference in weight gets a bit bigger with the chargers included, as the higher tier 5070 Ti version comes with a larger 300-watt charger, while the lower spec 5070 version comes with a smaller 245-watt charger. The whole laptop comes in Lenovo's Eclipse Black finish, and it's got an aluminum lid and plastic bottom panel. They don't list what the interior is, but it feels like solid plastic to me. Build quality feels solid. There's not much flex to the keyboard deck, lid, or screen, and the screen doesn't flop around when typing hard. The front of the lid sticks out a bit, making it super easy to open with one finger, and the screen goes the full way back. The hinges flex a little if the screen gets pushed back too far, so avoid trying to go beyond 180 degrees. Otherwise, the hinges move smoothly and feel good. Fingerprints show up, but they're not as obvious as some other laptops, and easy to clean with a microfiber cloth. My keyboards have 24 zones of RGB backlighting, but it's also available with white lighting only, and all keys and secondary functions get lit up. You can cycle through the first 6 lighting effects with the function and spacebar shortcut, but unlike higher tier Legion laptops, there's no shortcut for adjusting keyboard brightness. That can only be done through the included Legion Space software, their control panel for the laptop. This also lets you customize the effects, and you can drag them around to change the order you cycle through them with the spacebar shortcut. Honestly, I wasn't very impressed with the lighting. Even at full brightness, it looks dim compared to other laptops. And the included effects aren't very interesting considering it's got 24 zones to work with. But I suppose that's less important than the keyboard itself, which feels great to type with. I really like the slightly clicky feel, and that the arrow keys aren't tiny. The plastic touchpad clicks down anywhere and works well. It's not quite as nice as the higher tier Legion 7i's glass one, but it gets the job done. The port selection is decent, and all ports are found on the left and right sides this generation, which has been a controversial change, as last gen they had a bunch on the back to help keep cables out of the way. But this gen there aren't any air exhaust vents on the sides, so no hot air blasting your mouse hand. The display outputs offer a good mix for connecting to discrete or integrated graphics. Connecting to the DGPU gives better performance in games and VR, but connecting to the iGPU for lighter tasks means quieter fans. Getting inside requires removing 10 Phillips head screws, and the 4 down the front are shorter than the rest. It was easy to open from the front with pry tools. I'll leave a link to the ones I use below. Once inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 RAM slots just above near the middle, the installed SSD in the right M.2 slot, a spare M.2 slot on the left, and the Wi-Fi card just above that. Wi-Fi performance wasn't impressive considering it's the latest Wi-Fi 7, coming in at about half the speed of other Intel-based options. We just don't find MediaTek options like this to be as good with my router. At the end of the day, this is more than gigabit speeds, so plenty for most people. Speeds from the installed 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD were good. It came with a smaller 2242 size drive installed, but both slots can fit larger 2280 drives with chips on both sides. Both M.2 slots have 4 lanes of PCIe Gen 4, so faster Gen 5 storage will be limited to Gen 4 speeds, and the bottom panel has thermal pads for both M.2 slots. The Legion is available with DDR5 5600 memory, but both of mine came with faster DDR5 6400 CSO DIMM memory, which is an optional upgrade. The upgrade score is decent as far far as 16-inch gaming laptops go, as you've got 2 full-sized M.2 storage slots that can fit double-sided drives, 2 RAM slots, upgradable Wi-Fi, and it's fairly easy to open. Good stuff. The speakers are found towards the front on the left and right sides, and I thought they sounded a bit meh. They're tinny with minimal bass, but a bit clearer at lower volume, and at least there's no wrist rest vibration. The Latencymon results were good in our 5-minute idle test. This year's Legion Pro 5i is powered by a 4-cell 80Wh battery. Like other 2025 Legion laptops I've reviewed, currently the software doesn't automatically lower the screen's refresh rate down to 60Hz when you unplug to save power. But Lenovo have told me this is coming back soon in a Legion Space update, so I've done battery testing at 60Hz to represent this. You can also swap refresh rates manually at any time with the Function plus R shortcut. You can also limit the battery's maximum charge level to 80% in the Vantage software to help the battery last longer, as keeping it fully charged all the time can degrade it, but this can't be enabled at the same time as rapid charge. And you can also make the battery charge slower overnight, again to help improve battery longevity. Battery life was pretty similar in the YouTube video playback test, as it runs on the same integrated graphics, but the lower tier 5070 version lasted almost 29% longer than the 5070 Ti version with a game running, as it's more power efficient. It only lost 15% of its battery charge while asleep for 24 hours. But this isn't a fair comparison with the other laptops, as it depends on the size of the laptop's battery. Here's how much battery power was lost on average per hour, which is a fair comparison, and it's one of the better results recorded so far, draining similar to their higher tier Legion 7i, both of which drained much slower than their Pro 7i. Let's check out thermals next. The CPU and GPU are covered by a standard cooler with one heat pipe shared between them. There is a slight difference in coolers between the 5070 and 5070 Ti configurations, with the cooler on the 5070 Ti being a little bigger, which explains why it's a bit heavier. This makes sense, as the 5070 Ti uses more power, which equals more heat. Air comes into the fans through the holes on the bottom panel and gets exhausted out of the back. Again, no hot air blowing on your mouse hands this generation. The Legion Space software lets us swap between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are Quiet, Balance, Performance, and Custom. Performance and Custom modes automatically apply this overclock to the GPU to boost performance. You've got the option of using it in Balance mode, but not Quiet mode. In Custom mode, you can either enable Extreme mode or create your own profile to tweak power and temperature limits. We've tested Custom in both Extreme mode and with everything manually maxed out to see the differences. The power button stays on one of these colors so you can always know which performance mode you're in, and you can swap between them at any time with the Function plus Q shortcut. Starting out with the results from the 5070 Ti configuration, the internal temperatures are fine at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst case full load scenario. Custom mode on Extreme is about the same as performance mode temperature-wise, though performance is better in Custom. Temperatures lower a little with everything maxed out, and closing the lid is only slightly warmer compared to lid open, so no problem if you want to dock the laptop. Just like the Legion 7i and Legion Pro 7i I've tested this year, temperatures actually get hotter with a stand or cooling pad used in this workload. The GPU was actually thermal throttling at Nvidia's 87-degree limit with the pad running at 800 or 1400 RPM. Even if we max out the laptop's fans and the cooling pad's fans, it's still a little warmer than not using the pad at all. And that's despite both maxed modes reaching the same power limits, with or without the cooling pad. So something about the way the pad blows air into the laptop must interfere with the way the fans work, because it's pretty useless. Anyway, we've got a full-powered 5070 Ti here, which is able to run up to the full 140 watts allowed by Nvidia, even with the processor under load. The GPU power was lower with the cooling pad because of the thermal throttling throttling it introduces. So again, it's not worth using. This results in a dip to clock speeds, and in turn, worse performance with the pad. As for the lower tier 5070 version, I only tested performance and custom mode in extreme, and the CPU was running warmer, but the 5070 GPU was running slightly cooler than the 5070 Ti. This is because the CPU in the 5070 laptop was using 5 more watts than the 5070 Ti version in performance mode, and 20 more watts in custom extreme mode. I'm guessing because the 5070 maxes out at 115 watts, so it's got more power for the processor, despite its smaller charger. Here's how an actual game performs with the different performance modes in use on the 5070 Ti configuration. I've got the native results in purple, and DLSS upscaling on balanced in red to boost performance. But even without DLSS, balanced mode was reaching the 60 FPS sweet spot at the screen's native resolution on ultra settings, and there's no practical difference between performance and the custom modes. Playing on Type-C power didn't work, and it crashed when trying to turn DLSS on, but maybe that would be different with Lenovo's proprietary 140 watt charger. The CPU can use more power in a CPU-only workload like Cinebench, where the GPU is idle. Again, there's not really a practical difference between performance and custom modes, but at least performance with the Type-C charger wasn't bad here. It only seems to suck in games. CPU performance is a middle-of-the-pack result compared to other laptops with the same processor. It's 6% ahead of the thinner Legion 7i, while the more expensive Legion Pro 7i is 5% ahead of the Pro 5i. But more importantly, it's 52% ahead compared to last gen. Performance lowers if we unplug the charger and run on battery power, but it's ahead of the higher tier Pro 7i now, and 76% ahead compared to last gen. This is a good result compared to others, though it is also getting beaten by a 13-inch tablet. As for keyboard temps, most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, and the 5070 Ti version was close to this and felt cool. Of course, it gets warmer when under load, but in quiet mode, the wrist rest and WASD keys still felt cool. The middle was a little warm, but not uncomfortable. It's a little warmer in balance mode, as this allows it to use more power, but the middle still wasn't uncomfortable. I've tested both configurations in the higher performance mode, and the 5070 laptop was slightly cooler to the touch than the 5070 Ti. That's the case in the higher custom extreme mode too, though the difference is only small. It's slightly cooler with custom mode on maxed as the fans run louder, and I also tested with the metal stand underneath, just to confirm that for whatever reason, using this does make the laptop notably hotter in this workload. And just to confirm, my basic stand isn't blocking the air intake. The hottest point was around the spacebar and arrow key area, and worst case, the higher spec laptop was a bit warmer. But they're both not bad relative to other laptops and similar to last gen. Both felt fine on the WASD part of the keyboard while gaming. But what about fan noise? It was mostly silent when idling in quiet mode, but the fans would occasionally kick on, though they were still quiet. The 5070 laptop was a little quieter than the 5070 Ti laptop, and both were a little quieter compared to last gen or the higher tier Pro 7i. You could absolutely run games in performance mode and still get basically full performance without the fans running as loud as custom, or you can still get a very playable experience in balanced mode if you'd prefer an even quieter system. Alright, screen next. The Legion Pro 5 is available with 2 different OLED screen options, but based on the spec sheet, the only difference is that one is 165Hz and the other is 240Hz. Everything else is the same, and the upgrade to the 240Hz option will set you back an extra $50 US. So let's see if it's worth it. I thought both panels looked great. Vibrant colors, deep blacks, the usual benefits that OLED panels deliver. We measured both panels at around 500 nits at full brightness, whether HDR was was on or off. The 165Hz screen was a little brighter in our test, but honestly, the difference is within the margin of error range that we'd see between the same panels. These OLED panels that Lenovo were using this year are a bit brighter compared to most other OLED laptops that we've tested. You'll need to look at Mini LED if you want significantly brighter. Running an OLED at higher brightness increases the concern for long-term burn-in, but the Vantage Space software does at least have some basic options to help mitigate that, though only the dark mode option was on by default. Other negatives of OLED panels include PWM flickering, which can give some people a headache after long use, and the glossy screen, which is more reflective and can be annoying if you're working in a bright environment. Screen response time was amazing. OLED panels are super fast, and that's the case here too, with all transitions occurring in less than a millisecond. Technically, the 165Hz panel was slightly slower than the 240Hz panel, but the difference is so small that it's easily within the margin of error range. Both screens are extremely fast, and honestly, I think the lower tier 165Hz panel is great. I think for most people, the 240Hz upgrade is only worth it if you plan on running games at high frame rates, like competitive titles, and you want a smoother experience. It's a nice to have rather than a necessity. The cheaper 165Hz screen is already solid. There's a bigger difference in total system latency, which is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire shows up on screen in Counter-Strike 2. The 5070 Ti can spit out more FPS, which gives it a bigger edge over the 5070 version, and it's impressive that it's competing with higher spec 5080 and 5090 options. Ultimately, the extra 5 milliseconds from the lower spec version won't really matter unless you plan on going pro in esports, and both are faster than last gen. The Legion has advanced Optimus, allowing you to automatically swap between Optimus on or off without a reboot. It's also got the classic muck switch, but that needs a reboot, and there's no point using it instead of advanced Optimus, as it doesn't change which GPU the ports connect to. Both screen options have G-Sync with Optimus off, but there's no adaptive sync from the integrated graphics, so you'd want to run games with Optimus off for more FPS, and as the only way to get a tear-free experience. The 5-megapixel camera above the screen is capable of recording video at 1440p, but it doesn't have IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock, and here's how it sounds while typing on the keyboard. Alright, let's see how well Lenovo's Legion Pro 5i performs in games. We've tested both laptops with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 was reaching a 26% higher average frame rate with the 5070 Ti at 1080p ultra settings, but the 5070 still delivered more than 100 FPS in this test. The Ti still had a 26% lead at 1440p too, but the 5070 was still above 60 FPS, so definitely playable even without DLSS, which would further boost performance, though I didn't expect worse 1% lows compared to the thinner Legion 7i with the same CPU and GPU. The 5070 Ti was 26% ahead of the 5070 in Alan Wake 2 at 1080p high settings, though the dips in performance, as measured by the 1% lows, were pretty much the same on both. The 5070 Ti was needed to surpass 60 FPS at 1440p, but the 5070 can absolutely do that too with upscaling. The 5070 Ti was 32% ahead here, and it was also our best result from that GPU so far in any laptop. The 5070 Ti was 28% faster than the 5070 in Black Myth Wukong at 1080p high settings. But again, the 5070 is still running well with even its 1% lows above 60 FPS without upscaling. At 1440p, the Ti is now 34% faster than the non-Ti, and required for above 60 FPS in this test. Performance with ray tracing on and upscaling enabled was sometimes better. Despite ray tracing being more resource intensive, combining DLSS still results in better performance. So you could absolutely boost performance even further without RT, but we only test with RT settings that actually visually improve these games. 8 gigs of VRAM with the RTX 5070 version with that 2560 by 1600 screen is a bit of a concern. Maybe not today or even for a while, depending on the games you play and setting level levels you use, but it's worth thinking about for a gaming laptop you're probably going to use for the next few years. If budget allows, the RTX 5070 Ti version will offer better longevity, and also around 25 to 30% more FPS in games, at least out of the 3 titles tested here. But I will be comparing both of these GPUs in 25 games at 3 resolutions very soon. Get subscribed for that big comparison to find out if the Ti is worth the extra. Here are the 3D Mark results from both GPUs. Content creator results were good, with performance being similar to similarly spec'd laptops in most cases. Combined with the screen, this is a good option for content creation. Though personally, I'd want an SD card slot. There's a lot more customization available through the BIOS compared to most other laptop brands, except for perhaps MSI, who just have an insane amount of options. There's even undervolting and overclocking support if you want to get shooting, and enabling these options allows them to appear through the Legion Space software. Linux support wasn't amazing, along with weird graphical glitches, which would probably go away with newer drivers installed. Bluetooth and screen brightness adjustment didn't work. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the links below the video for updates and to see if there are current sales. Because if we find the Pro 5i on a good sale, we'll add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the best sales. So make sure you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop with that link below. At the time of recording in mid-August, the RTX 5060 version starts from $1,465 US with a last-gen processor. The RTX 5070 version with newer processor starts from $1,650, while the 5070 Ti version starts from $2,000. But you can get the price down to $1,900 with the coupon code on our deals site. These codes change pretty much every week, so again, refer to the deal site with the link below. So the Pro 5i is one of the more expensive laptops we've tested with this level of hardware inside, which isn't too surprising as I think the Pro 5i is positioned as a mid-range gaming laptop that starts edging up a bit more towards the premium end of things. The question is the Pro 5i even worth considering? Let's break down the good and the bad to find out. Overall, build quality feels solid. It's relatively portable for a 16-inch gaming laptop, upgradability is good, and the BIOS offers plenty of tuning options. You've also got the choice of stepping up to the 5070 Ti for more VRAM and better performance. Some laptops don't give you that choice, and both OLED screen options are excellent, whether you go for the cheaper 165Hz or more expensive 240Hz panel. As for downsides, some of you will miss the rear ports, but the trade-off is no hot air blasting your mouse hand. The keyboard lighting is underwhelming, but the keyboard feels great to type on, and that's more important. And the speakers sound meh at best. But I suspect most people will use headphones in games due to fair noise. There aren't too many negatives with this laptop, and I don't think any of them are major deal breakers. So if the price is right, I've got no problem recommending the Legion Pro 5i. But is it worth spending more to get the 5070 Ti over the 5070? If you've got the budget, I think it is. You're paying around 20% more money to get 25 to 30% more FPS in games, and 12 gigs of VRAM, which will make this laptop last longer than this one. That said, the Ti version is a bit heavier, it runs a little warmer, and it's got slightly louder fans. But I think those differences are kind of minor. If you want even more performance, check out Lenovo's more powerful Legion Pro 7i here. It's pricier, but it's got more features too. I'll see you in that one next.